Alrighty, look at this. Pokemon solo run in Gen 2. And this one is going to be Articuno. So, as you all know, Articuno is a legendary bird, or one of the 3 legendary birds from Generation 1. Now, in contrast to all the Gen 1 solo runs that I did, the Gen 2 ones are going to be a little bit different. Because Gen 2 is longer, the game's a bit more tedious. There's sections in the game which go on and on for a long time. I'm actually going to try a post-commentary style of doing this and cut bits out that just aren't really important to the run. That might be going through the routes, going through random trainer battles. It may also just be cutting out certain spots that are very repetitive, like the Team Rocket radio tower whole thing, because that goes for a really long time. Even with a speed up toggle, Articuno's run took about 2.5 hours, and I don't really expect anyone to sit there for 2.5 hours. And believe it or not, despite the 2.5 hour time code, with all the cuts, it still made it to just over an hour, which is a lot better than 2.5 hours. But so we see Gust and we saw Powder Snow along with Articuno's stats briefly. The stats will pop up quite often as Articuno levels up throughout the run, but we go through Guide Gent, so we had the first little cut there. So what we go through here now is Mr. Pokemon's place, and we meet Professor Oak. So looking at Articuno, obviously being a legendary, its stats are very good. That means it's going to hit hard, and it can also defend pretty well. Articuno, though, as easy as I thought the run would be, it actually was a bit more difficult than I thought it was. So this is the first rival battle. This is before we actually get to name him. And obviously Articuno, even despite being level 5, with Gust and Powder Snow, take your pick, because Chikorita is weak to both of them. So the first section of the game, the first 2 gyms are actually very easy, because Articuno, he's good against Faulkner, and Articuno is also good against Bugsy, because bug types... Are bug types weak to ice? Yeah, I'm sure they are, aren't they? I'm sure bug types are weak to ice. Either way, Articuno has Gust as well, so... believe it or not, the gym leaders I had the most problems with was Whitney and, believe it or not, Jasmine. Jasmine I would actually rate as being more of a problem than Whitney. It may have been strategic in a little bit of sense, but alright, so we're back to Violet City, and this is going through the Sprout Tower. So the Sprout Tower is like the first training ground that you sort of encounter in this game, but because most of the Pokemon in here are Bellsprouts, and because Articuno's attack stat is quite high, as you can imagine, Articuno goes through this spot quite easily. So Sprout Tower, it's never really been a problem. If you start with a Totodile, you know, maybe the Bellsprout can jump you, but even back in the day, Sprout Tower was fairly easy. Gen 2 is a fairly easy game until you hit the Elite Four in most cases, because the Elite Four's level curve jumps up quite a bit. The level curve in this game is actually really bizarre. It's like... it stays steady around like the levels 20s to 30s since you get past like the 3rd gym until you hit the 8th gym. Then Claire's level hits around like level 37 to 40. And it just kind of hits out of nowhere, but here we go. That is the Sprout Tower done by Articuno, and Articuno did not have much issue getting through all of that. And as I'm looking back on this run, I did forget there is actually an escape rope in the top right corner as this... as Sage Nico decides that he wants to throw his Bellsprouts for Articuno to basically to eat up. So after the Sprout Tower, the next challenge would be Violet City's gym, and because Faulkner has he has a Pidgeotto and... does he have a Pidgeys? Or is it a Spearow that he has? I actually can't remember now that I'm watching. Oh no, maybe I'm thinking of this Spearow. I'm pretty sure Faulkner's got Pidgey and Pidgeotto. I should remember. but when it comes to Gen 1, even though I've done over 100 Gen 1 solo runs, I still don't remember enemy teams and all that, so it was a Pidgey. And Articuno obviously knocks out Pidgey in one hit, and it hits Articuno with Powder Snow. Powder Snow is not the strongest move out there, as look at that, Pidgeotto gets frozen, but there wasn't really much more that Pidgeotto could do. Mud Slap can't affect Articuno because it's part flying. Now, Mud Slap, Articuno can learn that, and it is a pretty useful move. You can lower the enemy's accuracy, but as this run goes on... Oh, okay, so you see that screen glitch. That happens when you use speed up toggles in Gen 2. Sometimes the game does frazz out a bit and that happens, but it doesn't affect anything. It never happens in Gen 1 though, but it does happen in Gen 2. So we'll go back to the Pokemon Center and we will pick up Togepi. Togepi is actually kind of useful. It can learn Flash and it can learn Rock Smash as well. It can also learn Headbutt, which is also useful if you need to headbutt trees in this game. If you, I guess, gone for a completionist where you need an Execute, Pineco, Apoms in there. Alright, Articuno. So this is the Slowpoke well, and Articuno, obviously, again, even though it's not really that high of a level against the enemies, Articuno goes through this without much difficulty. So against Zubats, Powder Snow is effective. One thing I will say about Gen 2, very difficult not to over level. Because so many of Gen 2's battles are mandatory compared to Gen 1, it is very, very difficult not to get over leveled. So I was at about this time where I thought, well, Bugsy won't be much problem, and I decided to think ahead on the run. So one thing that did make me think what might be a bit of a challenge, of course, was Whitney's Miltank. Because Rollout is a rock-type move, Articuno is flying and ice. Articuno is actually 4 times weak to Rollout, so Miltank's not even going to have to hit it that many times in a row to do a massive amount of damage. So I thought about that, and when it comes to Morty, because Articuno's attack is quite strong, and Morty's Pokemon are ghosts who don't have a lot of physical defense, Gust is going to be very good. I've also got Mud Slap, and despite Mud Slap not being that strong, it does lower accuracy, I think. And I quote, I think it lowers accuracy on this game. I know it says it does, but just wait and see what happens in this run. Alright, Kakuna took a couple of gusts because it decided to use Harden. But Articuno gets to level 16, and it is now neck and neck with Scyther. As you see Articuno's stats up there on the screen, at level 16, those stats are scary. Like, those stats are very, very high. So, but obviously, legendary Pokemon, they're going to be pretty good. So Scyther, as you see, is probably only going to get hit by Gust twice before it gets knocked out. And there it is, Articuno defeats Bugsy. So Articuno gains a big chunk of experience points, and with Bugsy beaten, that means we can go through the Ilex Forest and continue on to Goldenrod City. So there's a couple of things to do in Goldenrod City. One of them is to gain a radio. You can pick up the bike if you really want to. It's not necessary, but sometimes actually picking up the bike means you can get to Fuchsia City earlier when you're in the post-game going through Kanto. But here we have second rival battle, and he sends out Ghastly, which is level 12. Articuno is level 16. Mud Slap hits Ghastly and only does half health. That does give me a little bit of an insight to what Articuno might be able to do against Morty if it's using Mud Slap, and it's actually not that much. I think from memory, Mud Slap is only base 20, which is quite a weak move. It's just that with that extra accuracy drop, it can be quite useful. Powder Snow knocks out Bayleaf. Articuno hits level 17. And have a look at those stats. At level 17, so looking forward, Chuck won't be too difficult. Articuno does have Gust. All of Chuck's Pokemon are fighting. The 2 Pokemon, I think. Does he have 2 or 3? Does he use Primate as well? Or does he just use Poliwrath and Machoke? Price, being an Ice-type gym, probably won't be too difficult for Articuno. So now we got to go find the Farfetch'd, which doesn't actually take that long. As I'm watching back on this one, I am seeing, probably could have trimmed this bit out as well, but if you don't know, you can actually walk around the forest from the first encounter that you select on Farfetch'd without having to chase it all around the forest. But here we go, we get Cut, and actually I know why I left this bit in, because I don't have a Pokemon that knows Cut. In Ilex Forest, as you see, you can encounter Paris. Paris is useful for Cut, as the only other Pokemon that can learn Cut. I know Bellsprout can learn it, but usually Paris doesn't take too long to appear in Ilex Forest, and it's pretty easy to catch, so we go with Paris. So the tree is cut down, and we've skipped ahead to Whitney's gym battle. So I would have got the radio card by now. All of this is just game stuff that you don't need to see in terms of how Articuno's run went. I tried to avoid as much trainers as I could. Articuno is level 17. So this is the battle with Whitney. And this is where Articuno's run started to get very difficult, because Clefairy wasn't too bad. I mean, it's taken a fair bit of health off of Articuno, 20 HP. But Clefairy's not the issue. Oh, a little bit of a speed up there as well. It used Cross Chop, which fighting moves are neutral against Articuno because it's weak against fighting because of its ice, but it neutralizes because it's also part flying. Now this thing is where the issue came into play. Now I used Mud Slap. Miltank outspeeds me, which is concerning, but I think, well, Mud Slap will lower its accuracy, and Rollout's also not a 100% accurate move. I think it might be base 90 accuracy or 95 or something, but it's definitely not 100% accurate. But so we got beaten by Miltank to begin with, and now we've come back and we're level 18. We are now matched with Clefairy, and Gust is going to take about 3 hits. Clefairy usually goes for Metronome, and this time it uses Thunder. Of all the moves in the game it could pick, and it paralyzes me, which is completely rigged, which means I basically do not have any chance against Miltank here. Rollout knocks Articuno out, so Articuno will have to try again. So we walk back into the gym, and Articuno, I did end up battling all of the gym trainers. I ended up having to, because Articuno, believe it or not, actually had to get to quite a decent level to beat Whitney. I left a few battles in just to show what sort of difficulty Articuno actually had. Despite being legendary, I could always take the small chance of freezing Miltank with Powder Snow. But I decided that I was a strategist, and strategist, and I wanted to use Mud Slap to lower the accuracy, as Clefairy hits 3 times. Gust is better against Clefairy because Clefairy does have good special defense, which is where the ice type move won't do as much as Gust. But here we go, Miltank comes out again. Again, we are still level 18. I thought maybe I could get lucky here. But the thing is, I still can't outspeed Miltank, so its first rollout is doing probably about 1/3 or so of my health. So we hit Miltank with a Mud Slap. It doesn't do much damage though, that's the problem. And Miltank again hits Rollout. I kid you not, I don't know how many times I battled Whitney. It must have been close to maybe 10 or 15 times. Between 10 and 15, I would say. There were 2 other losses there. And the thing is I would use Mud Slap, and Miltank would just not miss. There was one battle where I hit Mud Slap 3 times, and Miltank did not miss. roll out at all. It hit every time. And it was to the point where it was actually dawning, does Gen 2 actually count accuracy drops properly? Because I'm sure it does. It's just that I was either just extremely unlucky, but it irritated me to all hell. But at this point, Articuno is level 20. I got it to level 20 so it could outspeed Miltank. I thought that might have been the key, and even so, still at level 20, Articuno does not outspeed Miltank, which is like pretty nuts when you think about it. So Miltank's accuracy drops, and look at that, it hits rollout. It hit it perfectly every time after every first mud slap. I remember it missing once. I think when I used mud slap 3 times, I think it missed once, and then after the 3rd or 4th mud slap, whatever it was, it just bullseyed Articuno and drove it into the ground. So Articuno now level 22, and I start to think if we can 2-shot Clefairy, which goes for Fissure with Metronome, which obviously can't hit Articuno, but there we go, Clefairy is knocked out, and I think this was the first time that Articuno went up against Miltank at full health. Now being 2 levels higher, but it's such a weakness to roll out given its rock typing. Here we go, Mud Slap. I think this might be the battle. See, accuracy drop. Rollout hits. Articuno loses a good chunk of health. I use Mud Slap again. If rollout misses, its strength counter will reset. There we go, it missed. I think that might have been the first time it missed. That is the 3rd Mud Slap. The 3rd accuracy drop. Stomp hits Articuno. Doesn't do much damage. Now, I can go for Powder Snow, but I went for Mud Slap again. And I'm glad I did, because four Mud Slaps have hit. Here we go. 5 Mud Slaps have hit. Miltank is almost down to half health. Miltank hits rollout. Mud Slap. This is as far down as Miltank's accuracy can go, and it hits rollout again. And I'm not going to lie, I say figuratively, but I wanted to put my foot through my TV screen with so much force because this irritated me to no end. This is how difficult Miltank was. If I used Powder Snow, maybe I could have won. But look at this, I was so fed up, I beat the rest of her gym trainers. I don't think I even healed after this battle. Look at that, 3 Jigglypuff down. Did I? I did heal. I guess I do care about my Pokemon after all. Usually I just let them battle until they faint, unless they need to evolve by happiness or something. But I decided to leave bits of this in unedited, mainly just to show the difficulty that many of us faced when we played this game for the first time in childhood, and to bring you back to those PTSD moments of not being able to get through this Miltank. Funnily enough, it is actually very easy to get through this Miltank. If you buy an Abra from the game corner, I think it's not very many coins. You usually have more than enough money by this stage in the game to buy an Abra from the game corner. You can then go into the Pokemart, and there's a guy who will trade you a Machop for an Abra. And Machop resists rock-type moves because it's fighting, but it also knows Karate Chop, which is a fighting move, and you can beat Miltank at maybe level 16 or so with this Machop, probably even lower. It's actually very easy to beat Miltank with a Machop. As Clefairy is beaten by Powder Snow, Articuno grows now to level 23. I may have gone again for Mud Slap. I was at a loss. I could not believe that Miltank actually hit after that many Mud Slaps. And I did. I probably should have just gone for Powder Snow. But look at this. Again, rollout is absolute bullseye yet again. Another Mud Slap on Miltank. Accuracy drop. Another bullseye hit with rollout. I wish I was making this up, but this was so beyond ridiculous, I just had to leave it in. 3 accuracy drops. Bullseye again with rollout. It doesn't even sound possible. I'd love to know what the percentage is of that actually happening, because it couldn't be high. But anyway, we're back at Whitney again. I had nowhere else to go, because when you get to this stage, you have to beat Whitney to actually advance any further into the game. And because you got to get past Sudowoodo, so Articuno now is at level 24. I did end up battling a few trainers around the overworld. And Clefairy uses Headbutt with Metronome, Articuno, and look at that, critical hit. What else would it have been? I'm surprised it didn't use Fire Blast and get a critical hit. Or Thunder. Well, it did use Thunder at one stage, but we're level 24 and we go up against Miltank again. And strategically, I probably should have been going for Powder Snow, but Powder Snow also isn't really that strong of a move. It's above Mudslap, but I think it's maybe only base 40 or so Powder Snow. It's not very strong. But I go with Mudslap. It's just that if Miltank misses, Rollout resets its power, but even without that power, so it did 19 damage there. That's very manageable if Miltank will miss. And look at this. Rollout. Bullseye hits me again. I still have 20 HP, so if I get hit by one regular rollout, I'll probably still get knocked out, but 3 accuracy drops, and we finally get a miss. So, I mean, the ridiculousness factor is still there, and it misses rollout again. Powder Snow this time goes and reduces Miltank to almost range of getting beaten, and it uses Milk Drink. Now Miltank gains about half its total health back. I go for another Powder Snow. Powder Snow can freeze, mind you. And Miltank uses Milk Drink again. Obviously, Milk Drink can't miss itself, and Miltank is getting close to regaining its full HP again. It's almost not fair at this point. You'd almost say that Whitney was cheating, but roll out and it misses. So finally Mudslap has actually had the desired effect that I thought it would have. Powder Snow, Milk Drink again. It's as bad as them using Hyper Potions or Super Potions halfway through a battle, except Miltank has, I think Milk Drink is only a 5 PP move, but still. And finally, Miltank is frozen, and this is how I ended up getting through the battle. Mudslap finally did its job. Miltank is frozen solid, and Powder Snow, unfortunately Articuno can't learn Ice Punch because that's a move you can buy from the Pokemart. Same with Fire Punch and Thunder Punch, which are very useful moves if the Pokemon can learn it throughout the whole run of this game. Any Pokemon that can learn those punches will generally do very well. So after, it must have been about half an hour of real time, I finally got through Whitney. So next, we meet Bill in the Pokemon Center here, but there's a couple of things to do in Ecruteak City. You need to win HM Surf by beating all the Kimono girls. There is also a rival battle in this tower. I used to skip this when I was younger because I didn't actually know he was in there. As soon as you beat Morty, I'm pretty sure he disappears. So this rival battle, you have to do this now, otherwise it's actually missable. No, technically this is rival battle number 3. The rival was no challenge throughout the entire run. Articuno was just too strong. And being an ice type, the rival doesn't match up very well against him. His starting Pokemon was Chikorita. Unfortunately, I can't change that. With the Game Genie code I have to change my starter, it has to be the middle Pokeball, so the rival is always going to start with Chikorita. But in all honesty, the rival in this game is pretty lackluster. His team is it's varied, but he's just even in character. It's just the rival in this game he just isn't that good. So the rival battles are just kind of like, whatever kind of mentality with him. Magnemite almost gets knocked out with a Mudslap. But Curse actually does quite a lot of damage. Magnemite went for Supersonic. I'm probably lucky that didn't hit, because if it did, no doubt Articuno would have knocked itself in confusion. But Magnemite is down. Articuno grows to level 26. And have a look at the stats. They are chunky. Like, no... Obviously, regular Pokemon don't have stats like this, but Articuno in particular, super powerful. Bayleaf comes out. Articuno uses Gust, and it does half of Bayleaf's health. And although I am hit by Curse again, Bayleaf uses Poison Powder, but it doesn't hit me. And now Powder Snow for Bayleaf, that likely would knock it out, and it does. The only other Pokemon that the rival has is his Zubat, which is obviously an easy knockout when it comes to Powder Snow. The rival, he does end up with Golbat, of course, which also weak to Powder Snow. The rival is actually a pretty easy opponent when you've got Ice types. So our rival is beaten, and so we need to also battle Morty, and we also need to battle the Kimono Girls. So we'll go out of Burn Tower, we'll get ourselves healed up, and we will head over, and I think I did the Kimono Girls first. If I remember right, I did. So this is how you get Surf. And getting Surf, I actually, I think I skipped the Kimono Girls the first time I played this game. I didn't know I actually had to beat them all. So it took me a while when I first played this game to actually figure out how to get Surf. But the evolutions, they give you a lot of experience, and they're not particularly difficult to beat. So this is where like the level curve for solo runs kind of gets a little bit out of whack. Jolteon nearly did beat me. It did paralyze me. Probably lucky that Articuno did win that. But now that I have Surf, the Pokemon I usually catch to do that is Krabby. And that's over in Olivine. I have done a couple of solo runs on Gen 2, but they were like almost full length. And it just isn't working. It's just taking way too long to actually present them in a way that people are actually going to watch it, because 2 hours, that is a very long time, or 2.5 hours I think Articuno took. And if a Pokemon as good as Articuno is going to take 2.5 hours, how long are bad Pokemon going to take for this? They're probably going to take closer to 5 or 6. Because like I said, Articuno was really, really good. I tried to do Suicune once and I gave up on it. I gave up at Claire. And Suicune was rubbish. Despite being a legendary, like I was close to level 50 I think before I actually beat Claire. But I never actually finished that run, and I lost the footage of it by accident, so one day I will redo Suicune. I'm not looking forward to it though, but here we go. We are up against Morty. So Morty, he's a bit of a problem depending on the team that you have. He's obviously ghost types. They use Curse, they use Hypnosis, they use Dream Eater. They use all that jazz just to make your battle against him just that bit more difficult. But Morty, as he does, he starts off with a Ghastly. And I start off with my legendary bird in Articuno. So Articuno knocks out Ghastly. And now Morty is about to use Haunter. I believe he's got 2 Haunters and a Gengar. And the thing with Morty is that he also uses Curse quite often, and when your Pokemon are cursed, they just hemorrhage HP. The Haunter went for Nightshade, so that will do 21 damage, putting Articuno down to 82. At level 29 though, it was because I had to level up so much just to get through Whitney. I possibly could have just used Powder Snow on Miltank and just hoped for the best to get that cheap freeze, but mind you, that is kind of like what happened anyway. But alright, Gengar at level 25 gets hit by a Powder Snow. Gengar went for Hypnosis and missed. If that Hypnosis hit, I probably would have lost, because Gengar would have started using Dream Eater, but I hit a critical hit on that Powder Snow and it actually gets rid of Gengar. Articuno was lucky, I think, to actually get through Morty. So looking ahead at the gyms, Chuck shouldn't be too bad. I think his highest level is level 30. Jasmine's Steelix is level 35. And I think Price's Pillar's Wine is level 35. But because Price has ice types, I wasn't too concerned about him. Claire, on the other hand, because I am an ice type, her dragons become very easy. So I wasn't too worried with her. To be honest, I wasn't that worried about Jasmine, but just wait till you see what happens against her. So we have skipped ahead and we are now at the lighthouse. So to get Jasmine back to her gym, you have to give Amphi this medicine. So skip frame over to, what's it called? No, it's not. Cianwood City. I almost said Cinnabar. But obviously the trainers in here are basically pushovers for Articuno. So I have caught a Krabby at this stage. I didn't actually add that in, but Krabby is the one using Surf and Strength, which you can get the good rod in. You get the good rod in Olivine City, and you can fish out a Krabby next to the lighthouse. Krabby's pretty easy to catch and very good for HMs. So he joins Paris and Togepi. Togepi's got Flash and Rock Smash. But you don't actually need Rock Smash. You do need... in fact, you don't even really need Flash in this game, to be honest. Unless you want to go exploring some of the other caves. Flash, you don't actually need it to get through this game. As Articuno comes out against Primeape. We're 5 levels higher. Literally, I did try to keep the level as low as I could, but alright. Karate Chop hits Articuno and puts it down to 68 HP. I wasn't even full health for Chuck. And look at this. Primeape knocked out. Articuno will hit level 33 after that win. And we will get to see its stats. So Articuno, as it levels up, as you see its stats, very, very strong. Its special attack is much higher than its physical attack. And its physical attack is nothing to be ashamed of. It's still pretty strong. Poliwrath is resistant against ISO, so I'll go for Gust. And it does... Oh, that was a critical hit. I was thinking it probably would do about half his damage. Poliwrath misses with Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch, I think, is only 50% accurate or something like that. Causes confusion if it hits those, so... But Leader Chuck is defeated. Chuck really should have... He really should have had a Hitmontop. Same with Morty. Morty should have had Misdreavus. Bugsy should have had Ledian and Ariados. Jasmine was good in having a Steelix, but I would like Jasmine to have a Skarmory as well. This game just wasn't thought out very well in terms of what the gym leaders actually had. You know, Faulkner should have had maybe a low-level Noctowl or something as well. So... off we go to Jasmine's gym, and this is again where old mate Articuno hit a bit of a roadblock. It was the last real roadblock that Articuno hit. The rest of the game was fairly straightforward. But the problem in this one is because Powder Snow isn't effective against Steel types. Mud Slap does a little bit against Magnemite. It's neutral against Steelix because it's part ground, but the Steel types, I believe they actually resist ice. Now Magnemite, this was the issue. Magnemite would go for Thunder Wave and then it would use Thunderbolt. And Thunderbolt obviously is going to do a lot of damage against Articuno. I do have good special defense, but look at that. It still did, you know, well over a third of my health. The first Magnemite does get defeated. And the difficulty really did come with Steelix. Magnemite wasn't too bad. I did end up getting to the point where I could one-shot it with Mud Slap, which is going to give you maybe an indication of what level I actually had to get to. So because Articuno can't outspeed, it ends up getting knocked out. So I did attempt Jasmine, I think maybe 3 or 4 times, and I barely got the Steelix. I think I got the Steelix once because Iron Tail is also super effective against me, and Steelix was hitting it a lot. Even with Mud Slap, it was hitting it just like Miltank was with Rollout. So I thought, you know what, I'll go meet Lance, I'll go to Mahogany Town, because of the weird way the game's leveling goes with gym leaders, Price is actually like the similar level to Jasmine. So I'm like, I might as well just do Jasmine later. So I'll skip this whole rocket hideout and just go straight to the executives because it's just meaningless battles. The Pokemon are weak as well. Yeah, I feel they could have done better with the leveling in this game as well. But mind you, Gen 2 was still very iconic when it came out. So you got to defeat the Electrode here, and then you turn off the signal, which you can actually listen to on the radio. Some players may miss that as they play through the game. When you're in this area, there's a weird radio broadcast, which is a bit of a screeching noise. It's caused by those electrodes, but Lance gives us a TM for Whirlpool, and we are back at Jasmine. So what level are we? As Magnemite comes out, we are level... Am I still 34? No, I'm 37. Level 37 at this stage. So a Mud Slap on Magnemite is doing at least half. Critical Hit knocks it out. It has to be Critical Hit though to actually knock Magnemite out. Articuno gains a fair bit of points. Now, can we reach Steelix with full health? So we use Mud Slap on Magnemite again. And Magnemite again. Critical Hit. That's actually really lucky. So we're full health against Steelix this time. Articuno will just about level up if it beats Steelix at this point, but I'll give you a clue. Steelix was extremely difficult, which is unusual because usually Jasmine Steelix, I never have a problem with it because it's part ground, and usually at this point I have water types that know surf, and it just sweeps Steelix away. So Steelix goes to Iron Tail. It actually missed that first one. Now I'll go for Powder Snow. I would like a freeze, but as you see, Powder Snow, it does a bit more than Mud Slap, but not by a lot. And Iron Tail hits me, and look how much it does. That's nearly half my health. Articuno is not good against Iron Tail. It may even be 4 times weak. I don't know if Steel is weak against flying or not. Like I said, I don't actually know my type, strength and weaknesses that well. I know Gen 1's. There was only 2 more added to Gen 2, but I am old school in terms of gaming. But Price, I ended up battling Price first because Jasmine knocked me out maybe another 4 or 5 times, and I just gave up. I was like, you know what, I'm going to go fight Price instead before I get too over-leveled for his team, trying to beat Jasmine. See, now Price, level 27, his Pokemon are lower level than Jasmine. I'm level 38 now because I knocked off Magnemite a few times trying to beat Steelix. But now, so we hit Fly on Seal, rather. Fly's base 90 attack, I think, and it's 95 accuracy. So it's not fully accurate, but it's better than Gust. So Price now sends out Dugong. Honest, I didn't have any issue with Price. I thought he would be fairly easy. I still can't believe the level though. Like, Price is the 7th gym leader. His Pokemon should be... This is what level Jasmine's Pokemon should be. But Gen 2, it is a bit of a weird game. It's a good game though. I still have an appreciation for it. I still remember the Christmas of the year 2000 when I finally got my cartridge for Silver, as the Pokemon craze swept from the original games and the very early trading cards. The second generation games were highly anticipated. But now Pillar's-Wine, this is one thing the game did do right. They gave Price a unique ice type. They could have given him, instead of giving him Seal or Dugong, maybe they could have given him a Delibird or something as well. But still, Delibird is... imagine doing a solo run on this with Delibird. That's not going to be fun. Pillar's-Wine uses Blizzard. Articuno can't be frozen because it's an ice type, so I don't have to worry about that. Pillar's-Wine goes for Fury attack, but I'm in the air. Articuno hits Fly. This will put Pillar's-Wine down to 0 HP, and Articuno gets a win. And I didn't even really gain that much points. I probably should have battled Price earlier, but I got to this level because of Whitney and Jasmine. So it's just unlucky for Price. But Icy Wind. Icy Wind is a little bit stronger than Powder Snow. Not by much, but it is still better. So Icy Wind, though, I don't know if Icy Wind is 100% accurate, though, because I'm pretty sure that missed a few times. But I ended up getting rid of Gust. Don't really need it since I have Fly. So we make our way outside of the gym, and now we fly back over to good old Olivine City, where we go and fight Jasmine yet again as we cut frame. And at this point, we are level... I might still be level 38. Oh, Magnemite comes out. Articuno is level... No, I skipped ahead. I did skip ahead. So level 45 for Articuno. This will be the battle that I won. At this point, Mudslap was knocking up Magnemite in one hit, and I'll tell you why I skipped so many, because it was the same as Miltank. I reckon I got knocked out maybe about 20 times by Steelix before I finally hit this level where I was actually managed to beat it, which is dumbfounding. I never thought that I would have this much issue with Steelix. But anyway, I go for Icy Wind, and Icy Wind now is doing a lot of damage. I may have actually leveled up a bit more than I needed to. In the previous battles, I was trying to use Mudslap again as well, and Steelix kept hitting me with Iron Tail. So it was sort of like, again, thinking, is accuracy in this game actually working? But I probably didn't need to get to this level. I probably should have gone with this strategy to begin with. All of the other battles, I was kind of going with Mudslap, maybe a bit unnecessarily. And, you know, now Articuno is a little bit over-leveled, which, I mean, trial and error of this game, but doing solo runs, you're going to get over-leveled. There's just so many mandatory battles. For example, like these ones. This is the Team Rocket thing, which I skipped altogether. So that's where Team Rocket is taking over the radio tower. All of the Pokemon are dead-ass weak. There is a rival battle in there, and I actually skipped him. I actually forgot that he actually appears in the underground. But I knocked out his whole team, I'm pretty sure, in 1 or 2 hits. His team were absolutely nothing, so I skipped forth to Claire, went through Ice Path. You know, it's all just overworld. I mean, that Team Rocket thing with the radio tower, that takes a very long time to do, and you gain nothing out of it. It is such a tedious thing as well. You got to go through the undergrounds, you got to go through the radio tower twice just to get to this director, and their Pokemon are not even near where the gyms are that you've just beaten. So why? It's kind of like the question of why did they actually put that in? They should have put it in a little bit earlier. Then maybe some of those trainers may have actually meant something for your for the developing of your team. As Dragonairs, they're obviously, because of Articuno's level now, Articuno is very strong, and at level 51, those Dragonairs are just going to get absolutely thumped by us. In fact, if Articuno was probably level 40, it would still be knocking Dragonairs out, because obviously weak against ice gives Articuno the advantage. High special attack, and Dragonairs drop. I reckon level 40 and above, Dragonair probably gets knocked out by one hit by Icy Wind. Articuno learns Ice Beam at level 51. It might actually know Ice Beam now. It does know Ice Beam now. So Ice Beam would knock out Dragonairs when they're probably at equal level. Ice Beam, I think, is base 90. Look how much it does against Kingdra. That's a crazy amount of damage given how good Kingdra is. Now, Kingdra is a nightmare. Kingdra will use Smoke Screen. Claire will use Hyper Potion. Claire will not play fair, but fortunately Articuno does hit. If Kingdra started using Smoke Screen and Double Team, which it does have, it has both of them, Kingdra becomes almost impossible to hit. So, but luckily for Articuno, that was the first and only match against Claire. Obviously, I was a bit over-leveled. If my level was around 40, Kingdra would probably win. I would probably need to be about level 45 to comfortably beat Kingdra. So, obviously, we do need to go through... that Dragon's Den, which takes a little bit of time. It's not too bad. I did need to get a Pokemon that knew Whirlpool, so I actually went to Lake of Rage, and I ended up catching a Gyarados. So I've skipped all the way ahead through through catching my Gyarados and going through Tojo Falls, getting the Dragon Fang and all that. It's just text. It's just overworld. So we don't want to sit there through that. So we're at the next main part of the game, and that's the rival battle just before you hit Indigo Plateau. With 8 badges now, Magneton comes out. Sneasel was one hit with Fly. Even the rival now, he's not as even higher level as Claire. Like, his Pokemon are still in the mid-30s. They're Jasmine level. Even the rival's level curve is weird. I am paralyzed, so I go for Ice Beam, knock out Kadabra, or Alakazam, whatever it was. Knock out Meganium, knock out Golbat. The rival is still, well, he's too easy now. So we probably need to be around level high 40s to 50 to beat the Elite Four anyway. So if you start the game on Monday, well, you don't have to start the game on Monday, but on Mondays, the rival will battle you in the Elite Four. So, well, after you've beaten the Elite Four, you can do a rival battle in it. So, which I didn't actually do in this run, but he's not any stronger than just the regular run-of-the-mill Elite Four trainers. But here we go. We go up against Will and Xatu. Xatu is one shot. Articuno's level 54. Probably too over-leveled at this point, but you saw the difficulty I had with Miltank, and the difficulty that I had with Steelix was even greater. So that was the challenge that Articuno had to overcome. So Will's beaten. There wasn't really much Will could do anyway, even if I was a lower level. Koga sends out Ariados, and Ariados, Bug isn't weak to ice. I always think Bug is weak to ice for some reason. I don't know why. Protect by Fortress, that actually really started to get annoying as well. Because Protect usually only works once. Ice Beam, Fortress went for Swift. We knock out Fortress, Muck. Muck is quite bulky. You have to be prepared for him. Crobat will be one shot with an Ice type move. It did use Double Team, but Articuno still hit it. Venomoth poisons me, but Venomoth is down. And now I did buy the healing items mainly for this reason, to keep Articuno at full health between Elite Four members. I don't use the items during battle, but I do use them in between Elite Four members. Otherwise, Articuno would probably have to be around level, I don't know, 60, 70. It's probably closer to 70 actually. But now, Hitmontop kept using Protect whenever I would use Fly, and it was really annoying. It wasn't very nice by Hitmontop, but anyway. We Fly, we knock out Hitmonchan. Onyx, obviously, well, there's never a challenge in an Onyx. And then Machamp is down, and now Hitmonlee gets hit by Fly, and Articuno disposes of Bruno. He is about as weak as he was in Gen 1. So Karen's actually a very challenging trainer. Her team is quite varied. She's got Vileplume, she's got Gengar, she's got a Houndoom, so she's got a Fire type, a Grass type, she's got Umbreon, which is very good as well. Karen is one of the most versatile Elite Four members in the whole series. So here's Houndoom, which I use Mud Slap on. Houndoom does hit Flamethrower and does quite a lot of damage too. But I use Fly. Houndoom's physical defense isn't actually that great, so you can sort of get the jump on it like that. But now we go. Gengar has paralyzed me, which is a bit concerning, but the last Pokemon out is Murkrow. Gengar did that with Lick, by the way, and now Vileplume, which is weak against ice. I went for Petal Dance, but it didn't do much. I am part flying. And now Articuno, sorry, I didn't put the stats up for long enough there, but I was very keen to get through the Elite Four. A full restore. Lance, on the other hand, well, 3 Dragonite and an Aerodactyl, which are all weak against ice. And now the only real challenge may be a Gyarados, which went for Hyper Beam and misses because obviously I'm in the air. Gyarados went for Rain Dance. I go for Fly again. Gyarados again goes for Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam would do a bit of damage if it did hit, but now we're up against Charizard. I've only got 1 Fly. But I decided to go for Ice Beam against Charizard. It is neutral damage, and it nearly knocked Charizard out. Charizard does burn me, which will reduce my physical strength and speed, but because Articuno's level is very good, Icy Wind, Powder Snow. Sorry, not Icy Wind. but they're enough to knock out all of Lance's Pokemon. I went for Ice Beam on the last two, but Articuno won its Elite Four challenge on its first try. Was it a little bit over-leveled? Yeah, maybe. But, I mean, it didn't get through Lance with much, so if it was 3 or 4 levels lower, it probably would have lost. Now I am in Kanto. So I skipped the boat ride because, again, you have to find that girl. She's with the captain. Then you got to find that sailor and blah blah blah. But I skipped fixing the power plant as well. You just find that Team Rocket guy in Cerulean City. Again, it's just long. It's just all over the overworld. We just want to see the battles. So obviously Articuno doesn't have any problem with Brock because, well, Brock doesn't match up very well. So now I did actually go through Mount Moon, and the reason is because there's actually a rival battle in there. So he's not particularly difficult, but it did take a little bit of extra. It did take a little bit of extra time, but the trainers here, their Pokemon are in the mid-30s or so. They're not really that strong. So we head on over to Mount Moon on our way to Cerulean City. I do like to walk the old journey when I play this game, but with these solo runs, obviously I will cut some of it out. Like, I didn't go to Rock Tunnel this time. Usually I go through Rock Tunnel, but there's a Magneton. Look at this. He's not even stronger at this point. He's not even stronger than the Elite Four. Alakazam, so obviously the rival is all a knockover. There goes Meganium, and there goes Golbat. Level 60 for Articuno now. All to get ready for the final battle with Red. Wink wink. Given the amount of level curve that Red does, but we're now heading over to Cerulean City, which obviously we need to find Misty, and that means we have to go through Nugget Bridge, because Misty is up on the Cape, and you have to go through all those trainers to get her back in the gym, which is kind of annoying in some way, because there's 6 trainers. In fact, one of them's not mandatory, but anyway, most of them only have 2 Pokemon, so it's not too bad. It's okay if you've got a speed up toggle to use, like I do as well. It makes it a lot quicker. But there goes Vaporeon, and now we get up there. This is where you have to battle 2 of them back to back. But because their Pokemon they're so underleveled. Like, when you think about it, these are like early 30s. You fought Lance when he had a level 50 Dragonite, so it would have been nice if these trainers maybe were a little bit stronger, but I probably meant to cut Nugget Bridge, and I probably forgot, to be honest, but I battled this trainer anyway, just for the hell of it. Just to get my Nugget, which I never ended up selling. But Misty is down here on the Cape. Bill's grandfather will give you evolution stones in that house as well. But now that we got Misty back into the gym, we heal up. Now, I actually lost to Misty a couple of times, and you'll see why. You won't believe what actually happens. So Golduck isn't a problem. Does a little bit of damage, but it's not a problem. We knock out Quagsire with Fly. Probably should have used Fly again to not Mud Slap. And now this thing comes out. Lapras, and it used Perish Song. And because Lapras is super bulky, I can't knock Lapras out fast enough and then knock out Starmie. So I actually lose a couple of times to Misty. I did not see this coming. I actually forgot that her Lapras knew Perish Song. And Lapras, being the troll that it is, just like Lorelei's Lapras, being the absolute troll that it is, used it quite a few times. I think the one I finally won, I thought I got lucky. Look, Ice Beam does barely anything. There's Rain Dance. Use Fly. If I use Fly, it seems to always go for Perish Song. And now I have to try and knock out a Starmie in one shot, and with an Ice Beam I can't do it. So, even at that level, but that was a surprising turn of events that happened when I was facing Misty, is that I actually lost a couple of times. Usually, I can't remember the last time I actually lost to Misty. Because usually I have Ampharos when I'm playing through, like with my classic Gen 2 team, and Ampharos just fries her into the local sushi bar. All of her Pokemon are barbecued. But here goes Lapras now. So I decide to use Ice Beam. Lapras hits me with Surf, Ice Beam again. And, well, it still used it. It still used Perish Song. Which is, well... what can I really do to knock Lapras out quicker? Articuno's Learn Set is basically as good as it can get, unless I want to go, like, Hyper Beam or something, but the TMs in Gen 2, man, they are shocking. By far, the worst in the series with TMs is Gen 2, but we go at it again. We're level 62. Golduck gets knocked out in one shot now. Quagsire almost does as well. And now here is that damn Lapras again. We go for Fly. This time Lapras goes for Surf. And that time it went for Blizzard. I finally have an opportunity to knock it out. Ice Beam with a critical. And now we have Starmie, 2 Ice Beams. And finally we get through it because Lapras didn't use Perish Song. Obviously the game probably realized, hey, this dude's trying to do a solo run. Let's use Perish Song. So Lieutenant Surge was next. If we're going in the order of the gyms. Lieutenant Surge does have an advantage because I am a flying type. But he's not difficult, and you'll see why. Mainly because his Pokemon are weaker than the Elite Four, which means by the time I get there doing a solo run, I am in the position to one-shot all of his Pokemon. There's a Magneton. Ice Beam, not even very effective, still knocks it out. Electabuzz, Electro. And this is a little bit of the problem with the post-game in Gen 2, is because by the time you get to this point, most of your Pokemon are probably level 50, pushing on level 60, depending how much training you do, of course, which means like you just absolutely plow through them. Now I will mention, so there's Erica's team, there's Sabrina's team. I actually, I lost the footage for them. So I decided to display their teams and their levels here. Erica's... oh, that's Heart Gold and Soul Silvers. Oh, I did not notice that when I was doing this in post. Oh, crud. Okay. Well, that's funny. But, well, let me tell you how Erica and Sabrina's gym both went. I one-shot every one of Erica's Pokemon. And I one-shot every one of Sabrina's Pokemon because Psychic Pokemon have very poor special defense, and I went for Fly. With Erica, I went for Ice Beam, and I knocked them all out in one shot. So it's not even worth watching the battle. Now, I go over here, I get Blue to go back to his gym. There's a red candy just up in the island there as well. But I don't even bother picking up the rare candies in this game because there's so many mandatory trainers, you don't really need them. Anyway, Blaine. Makago is part rock. Ice Beam knocks it out. Magmar gets frozen somehow. And then Rapidash, level 50, used Fly, knocked it out with a critical because of Articuno's really bulky stats. So Blaine was a pushover. So now I decided to go and face Blue. And you might be thinking, oh, did you also skip the battle with Jasmine? I did not. I forgot about the battle with Jasmine and I beat Blue first. And you can't really blame me for forgetting about the battle with Jasmine because her Pokemon are weaker than Wheels from the Elite Four. Which is silly because, like, Jasmine's highest level... not Jasmine, Janine. Janine's highest level Pokemon is like level 36 or something. It's ridiculous. But I did actually lose to Blue a few times, mainly because of him using full restores. But his Arcanine used Flamethrower and pretty much fried Articuno like a chicken and sent it to the local KFC. But Blue, he wasn't too bad. I think it took me maybe 3 or 4 attempts. I think this was attempt number 2. Pidgeot's one shot. Arcanine, I just need to use Fly and just get rid of it as quickly as it can before it can hit me with that Flamethrower. Critical hit. Flamethrower. Is it in range of full restore? It is. That's the annoying thing. And we go up again for Fly. Arcanine has 1 HP left and of course knocks me out again. Fried up Paris. Fried up crab. You know, crab tastes really good. But I get knocked out for the second time there. There is Pokemon Trainer Cow in that building as well in Viridian, but I didn't end up battling him. I didn't think it was necessary. Cow was actually programmed to have level 10s and level 30s of his team as well. in the early and mid evolutions, but they must have scrapped him. So it is curious to see what cut content in this game and what this game actually could have been. Articuno missed Fly twice in that battle. Therefore, it deserves to go to the local KFC as fried chicken. So that's why I lost 3 times. Was about to say, I'm pretty sure I got him on this one. I think it was the 4th attempt now. I'm pretty sure I got him on this one. Because we used Fly on Arcanine. It used Flamethrower. And I've only got... No, he did knock me out again. Oh, how many attempts did it take me? Fried up Krabby, fried up Gyarados. I really should put those Pokemon in the box when I'm fighting a gym leader, but then I have to get them back out again. So the battle with Blue was tricky. And I think as soon as I got through that Arcanine, I think I got the win. Because Arcanine was the main problem. So we use Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Ice Beam, and then I hit a critical. And I think the rest of Blue's team dropped like flies. Alakazam, very poor physical defense, but it did just use Reflect. And it used Recover as well while I was in the air. Rhydon, obviously that's a one-shot. Rock and Ground, it is weak 4 times. And then he sent out a Gyarados. I used Ice Beam and it used Hyper Beam and it knocked me out. Okay, so what's actually happening there? Because the game thinks that flying is weak against ice, it actually pre-organizes a team and it actually sends Gyarados out in a really weird spot. If anything, Rhydon should be coming out last. But that's why Blue sends out Arcanine when he does, because it's a status advantage. And this time I have a little bit more health. Alakazam comes out, misses because I'm in the air, and this time Alakazam doesn't do any damage. We knock out Rhydon, now we've got more health for Gyarados. Ice Beam does half damage, and Gyarados went for Rain Dance this time. Why couldn't it do that last time? But Exeggutor, that's also a one hit because of its weakness to ice. So if it wasn't for Gyarados last time, we would have actually beaten Blue just a little bit earlier. And this is where I think I'm going to go to Professor Oak. But no, I forgot about Janine. Look at the levels of her Pokemon, bro. She is as strong as that executive that took over the Rocket radio tower. Or the Goldenrod radio tower, rather. Well, now that Janine's beaten, we can go to Professor Oak and we can say that we have collected all the badges and he will allow us access to battle the legendary Red. Now, most Pokemon are going to have to be level 80 to beat Red. Chikorita was level 100 and it barely, and by God I mean barely, beat Red. When I did a Chikorita run, it was probably about a year ago or so, but Articuno now is level 78. I didn't get it exactly to level 80. But you would think, is it over-leveled? I don't know. This is my first attempt against Red. It's just as a general rule of thumb. I did Mewtwo, and I think Mewtwo had to be about level 80 before it finally beat Red. So Red sends out Pikachu, which is obviously level 81. And Articuno is weak against Thunder. But you know what? Pikachu doesn't have very good special defense. It's quite weak. And because of Articuno's really bulky stats, Pikachu actually gets knocked out in one shot with Ice Beam. Ice Beam's like a base 90 as well. Like, it's a very good move. Now, I will apologize because it looks like I didn't actually put Articuno's actually, when it levels up, I might have actually put it on the screen a bit. I hope I did. But Charizard gets Ice Beamed, and at level 77, it shouldn't be a one-shot. But Articuno is so lucky and it gets a freeze. If that didn't happen and Charizard used Flamethrower, it probably would have done at least half of my health. So Articuno just got very lucky there as well. So Fly knocks out Charizard, 34, 48 experience, and we get to level 79. And, I went through the stats very quick. Well, Articuno's special defense is around 240, 250. Its special attack and its physical defense were around like the 210s. Its physical attack was like 180 or so, and its speed was maybe like 220. And this is only at level 79. That means Articuno at level 100 would be super, super strong.
But Espeon, that's going to take... Well, I think it used Reflect, but it used Psychic on me. Espeon's good. I really like Espeon. But here we go. Ice Beam on Espeon. I think that knocks it out. And it does. That's just Articuno's special attack coming into play because its special attack is so high. I think its special attack was around 220, 230 or something. Snorlax. Now this is a Pokemon I was worried about because Snorlax doesn't have very good special defense, but if it uses Body Slam and paralyzes me, Amnesia is special defense, so now I basically have to go for Fly. Snorlax's physical defense isn't actually that good either, to be honest. The thing with Snorlax is because it's got so much damn HP. It can also use Rollout, it can use Body Slam. There's a few good moves that Snorlax can use as well to really damage an enemy, but a critical hit as well. Did the critical hit matter? I'm going to say it probably did. I probably wouldn't have knocked Snorlax out. Articuno actually got very lucky in this battle, if I'm being honest. But now the last two Pokemon left, one of them is Venusaur, and that would mean that the last one is actually Blastoise. So Venusaur's level 77. Venusaur's very chunky, of course, as well. But one good Ice Beam from this legendary bird flattens Venusaur, which was surprising because Venusaur's special defense isn't bad. Articuno's just better in special attack. Blastoise at level 77. That's an odd one that Red sent out last. I would say because it thinks that water moves, being a water type, is also weak against ice, but I get a freeze. So call this battle what you will. Articuno, yes, it got very lucky because Blastoise could have used a couple of Hydro Pumps and probably done, probably a good 80 or 90 points of damage. I go up for a Fly. Blastoise thaws out and uses Rain Dance, which is a scary move because if it uses Hydro Pump while under that, it'll do a lot. Blastoise survives with literally 1 HP and goes for Surf. And look how much Surf did. Let's say Articuno probably would have had about 110, 120 HP if Blastoise used Hydro Pump. Red doesn't use a full restore and Blastoise is knocked out, and thus ends Articuno's journey as Pokemon Trainer Red is defeated. Well, that was Articuno's solo run. It obviously was very, very strong, and maybe it got a little bit over-leveled. I haven't done many solo runs on Gen 2. As I do more of them, I will get better at them as well and be able to strategize easier and whatnot, but I hope you enjoyed Articuno's solo run. I certainly did. It was a lot better than, I don't think I've done 10 solo runs on Gen 2 yet. Like I said, I've done a lot on Gen 1, but Articuno was really good, and it got through the game without too much problem once it got through Miltank and Steelix. Well, thanks for tuning in. I'll be hoping to do more of these solo runs throughout 2026 and ongoing. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Wherever you are in the world, stay safe, take care, farewell.